Hello and welcome to today's video. My name's Haley and we are going over the 13th gene key within this series. This series is all about this book called The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. So you can hop in right now and watch this video, or feel free to peruse the channel and look at the past 12 gene keys that I have articulated in depth, going off of, once again, Richard Rudd's downloaded wisdom. So today is about the 13th gene key, which is called listening through love. There's 3 parts to this key: the shadow of discord, which we'll be going over today; the gift of discernment, which I really like that word, I actually referenced that in the past gift state; and the acidic state of empathy. So today is all about that shadow frequency of discord. Usually before I even dive in and start reading, I like to ask myself, what does this word mean to me in reference to the shadow, gift, and acidic state? So you who's watching, when you hear the word discord, what comes to mind? For some reason, the first thing that comes to me is someone's trying to dial the telephone and there's like a dispatch issue and they can't get to the person they're trying to talk to. That's what comes to mind, like a red telephone, an old red telephone. Someone's trying to dial into someone else and it keeps getting cut off, and they keep trying. There's like a misalignment. I also kind of think of dizziness for some reason. So this is just what's coming to mind for me. It's interesting to see what bubbles up before we even get into this chapter. The chemistry of pessimism is the name of this chapter. And right off the bat, right, how many times have you complained about something and then the friend you're with is like, oh, that's terrible, and then this happened to me, and they start complaining, and then you comment on what they said and you start complaining. It's just this like complaining rabbit hole. The chemistry of pessimism. Pessimism is most definitely contagious and addictive, and there is a kind of chemistry to it, right? Just how 2 lovers have chemistry, so do 2 pessimistic pals. He starts off by saying that basically this entire 13th gene key has to do with the theme of listening. We're going to see how many dimensions there are to the art of listening. And this is true, there are dimensions to listening. If you've ever had a very deep conversation with a friend that just still sits with you today, you've experienced the dimensions of listening. Or if you have words stored in your mind from a stranger like Ben, which I referenced in past videos, intention is everything. Those 3 words always stuck with me. That's because I was tapping into a different dimension of listening, a different dimension of processing, and a different dimension of receiving. Therefore, kind of inferring I was more open-hearted, because to receive you have to be open-hearted. And with that gnosis, we can also correlate it to this, right? In order to listen on an even deeper dimension, you actually have to quite literally be in a state of open-heartedness. And this is something interesting. He says that the art of listening is deeply tied with the expansion or contraction of human consciousness. How able you are to receive, how many dimensions you are to penetrate within this art of listening, actually correlates to either your expansion of consciousness, of oneness, of love, or your contraction, your stress, your feeling cut off from source and people and experiences. Your ability to listen your ability to listen also, ties directly to how good you feel or how good you can feel. He gives us a definition of discord. He says, discord, which is the inability to listen and learn from your experiences in the world. The inability to listen and learn from your experiences in the world. Okay, so back to that phone analogy I opened us up with, dialing on the red phone. So it's not that they don't get through. They do get through physically. The person picks up the phone on the other end. It's just that what the first person is saying, the second person can't digest. No matter how many times they say it, which way they say it. There's an inability to listen and learn. There's a block. And it's frustrating because it sounds like, and I love how his definition actually, because it specifies that physically it does get through. Maybe physically you do hear the person on the other end of the line. But energetically, and this is what listening is, there's an energetic component to it. Energetically, it's not being received. Therefore, it can't be built upon. Listening is entirely different from hearing. How on par? Yes, you can hear someone, but that doesn't mean that you're listening. So an example of that would be, say you come home from work and you've had a really long day and, your spouse asks you, how are you? You're like, honestly, today was just really hard and I kind of want to just lounge on the couch and maybe, what do you want for dinner, babe? Well, I was thinking maybe just something kind of chill. Okay, cool. Actually, Stacy and Jim want to go out to dinner, so maybe you can get ready and we can go. Oh, okay. So technically your partner heard you, but are they listening? Not really. You want to chill out and do nothing on the couch and they want to go out to dinner with Stacy and Jim. And they're kind of unconscious, you could say, to the fact that you're feeling tired, that you're feeling like staying home, that you're feeling like you had a long day at work. And so the difference between hearing and listening is the ability to receive how someone is feeling and act in an empathetic accord to that. Listening is the kindest thing to do, whereas hearing only serves the individual ego. He's hearing her, but he wants to go out to dinner with Stacy and Jim. So there's a level of care that enters the frame when one starts to actually listen. Because in this same scenario, if he were to shift from hearing to listening, he would really listen to his spouse and he would say, oh, she's feeling tired. Well, I know Stacy and Jim want to go out to dinner, but it's not in alignment with her. Let me listen to how she feels. And then they'd probably choose to forego the dinner and stay on the couch and have a cozy night in. So you've graduated from hearing to listening when true, genuine, heart-centered care is entering the picture. Listening is something that can be only done with your whole being. Not just your mind, right? Your mind and your heart. You have to genuinely care, which activates this. Often listening requires withdrawal and time. It takes pause. So once again, in this scenario, the husband has to take pause and think about what's the most loving thing to do for everyone right now. Specifically the other, right? Specifically the spouse, because she's the one who's had the hard day. I know what I want. I want to go out to dinner with Stacy and Jim, but what does she want? What's good for everyone? So yes, it does require metacognition, the ability to pause and reflect, and then act in alignment with here and here. Richard Rudd goes on a little woo-woo detour. He says, our emotional chemistry is undergoing some extraordinary changes. And he's talking in reference to a global mutation that is talked about in the 55th gene key, which we will get to in quite a while. So take that or leave it if it resonates. I personally do believe we are undergoing an emotional chemistry, and whether or not I choose to back that up with the evidence he provides in the 55th gene key, I think there's actually quite enough evidence just naturally blossoming in the day-to-day, right? How we are responding emotionally as a society, as individual peoples, I definitely see as becoming not only more conscious but also more chaotic. So I would definitely agree with this statement. Our emotional chemistry is undergoing some extraordinary changes. And this in turn is going to affect our ability or inability to listen. So this 13th gene key is urging you to listen and learn from your past. What does that mean? Listen and learn from your past. You know those voices in your head that tell you, oh, what if this, or oh, you can't do that. All of this future anxiety and projection is based off your past story. So I'm going to give you the example of my life because that's what I have reference to. Urging you to listen and learn from the past. So if you're not familiar, I was a model for a few years, got pretty traumatized, eating disorder, body dysmorphia, the whole nine, very, very mentally ill. And while I was still sick, you know, there's these voices in my head. There's this knock on my soul. It's urging me to listen and learn from my past. Stop repeating these ill patterns, Haley. Stop starving yourself. Stop giving a shit what other people think. Stop trying to please your agents or the client or what you think your friends want to see. And these urges, you could say, come in the form of yearning, desire, wanting to be happy. They also come in the form actually of anxiety and depression, which is really important. Anxiety and depression are both signals, are both urges from your internal guidance system begging you to wake up. And I had a lot of those urges, let me tell you. I was very, very anxious for a long time, and it actually ended up randomly transmuting into a depression. And these emotions, these energies are urging you to listen and learn from your past. So what does that really mean? If I were going to actually sit down and listen and learn from my past, and I did, and I still do, what that tangibly looks like, at least from my point of view, is the individual. I'm willing to sit down and say, okay, what was I doing in my past? How has that brought me here? And you know, about a year and a half ago, as I'm having this conversation with myself, I'm saying, well, in the past I've sold myself to modeling. I've compromised all of my health and my values. You know, now I don't eat all these different things because I'm scared, and I work out certain ways, and this is what I'm learning from my past. I'm reviewing my past essentially. And to now listen and realize that doesn't work, right? Because it's brought me up into this point of mental illness and physical decay. To actually listen would be to say, something needs to change. And once again, the difference between hearing and listening is this genuine heart care, which is demonstrated through action. The person who actually listens not only sees what needs to change, okay, I need to start eating, I need to cut out the toxic people and agents in my life, I need to stop overworking out, yada, 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 right? The checklist goes on. They not only see what needs to change, but they actually also take action. And this is what listening and learning from the past means. So you who's watching, first contemplation. First identify something that's like, when you think of it, you either like get a little spooked or you cringe, or you're like, oh, right now I would just so rather not look at that, right? Whether it's a relational issue or maybe a health issue. The word issue's in there somewhere. Something that just is not good. Bring that up, look at it, and start to listen and learn from this past experience. See how your patterns have brought you up until this point, have created this part of your story, and start to really ask yourself how you can learn from this, how you can start to move through it and work with it. Because also another thing he doesn't mention here is this shadow of discord, and also any and all low vibrational scenarios in your life are there for a reason, right? They're there to elevate you to a new level of love. Looking back now, I can see how all of my issues were there to graduate me to right now, which is pretty awesome. You know, I eat cheese and bread and super happy and stoked, and I feel like I have a better perception on who to trust and who not to trust. So there's a level of wisdom gained through going through dealing with the people in the modeling industry, and also compromising my values on health. Now I really know what my values are. Now I really know how to identify someone who's good for me and someone who's bad for me. So holding this in frame, right? Whatever you're currently working through has a little gold nugget in it for you that is well worth the journey. So yes, if that activity excites you, feel free. And the nice thing about this activity is that it never expires. Even me sitting here right now, I can think of something that still makes me kind of feel a little maybe it's not the modeling anymore, but there's always something. There's always something in everyone's life for them to be like, let me find a little gold nugget in this large piece of coal. Let me listen and learn from this past experience that's still emitting an emotional charge. Okay, so this line I underlined, and I just like the way it sounds, so I'm just going to read it. I really don't have much to comment. It is the battle waged within the frequencies of these codes that decides your future. For those of you who don't know, Richard Rudd is also a poet. So sometimes he has lines in here like this, and I'm like, I don't even really know what that means, but it feels like, it just feels right and good. Yeah, I don't know, that's just how I feel. It just feels good when I read it. It is the battle waged within the frequencies of these codes that decide your future. Again, for whatever reason, that emits kind of an enticing hope in me when I read that. I just thought it was beautiful, so I wanted to share. Oh, wow. Okay, so I read this chapter a few weeks ago, but quite a lot of notes here. There's definitely going to be a part 2 to this shadow state of discord video. He throws us another definition of discord. He said, discord refers to the inability to escape your own past. Right? When you do bring up that scenario in your mind, it is like as if it's an IMAX movie in your head. All the emotions are still there. You're still very, very angry. You're still very, very upset. You're still very, very scared. Whatever low vibrational emotion is manifesting. Discord means you can't escape it. Even though you're here now, in this beautiful place, this memory of modeling is still so alive, or whatever it is, right? Something's haunting you. It's actually painting your now experience. and making you move and act in ways that are either scared or angry or upset. And it's the inability to process all of this memory, he says, all of this past experience. And this inability to process is what keeps you locked in the same self-destructive patterns. This is what keeps those habits alive, those addictions active. And I think actually the most important of it all, this is what keeps your reality the same, right? It's what prevents you from manifesting that dream life or that dream partner. I don't really like that word manifesting, but I think it's commonly known, so I'm going to use it. This keeps you in the same cycle of life. It's what keeps Groundhog's Day alive, right? Every day is the same. And maybe that every day for you is a nightmare. Or it's boring, or it's just mediocre. It's preventing you from unlocking new and higher levels of experience and love. And there are new and higher levels of experience of love, let me tell you. And I'll just add, I only know that because I've seen it active in my life, right? And being able to work through the discord I experienced with modeling, I've genuinely watched my life blossom in ways I would so not have predicted. And then it makes me wonder, okay, the pieces of coal I have to work with right now that still cause me some affliction, what will they graduate me into? So again, I'm going to offer you a perception shift here. Whatever is causing you ailment right now, get excited because it's also there. So cheesy, but it's actually so true. It's actually there to teach you the art of listening and graduate you into a life that you love even more than right now. And also, this section I just read, if we inverse it, I don't know if you guys could hear that on the camera, a very loud motorcycle. But yes, if you inverse it, and you do escape your own past, you work through the trauma, then that implies that you break free of the destructive habits, the patterns that don't serve you, and the Groundhog Day. So this should be motivation and fuel to want to work with the coal in your life. Ooh, I like this part. Symbolically, one might draw a connection between how effectively we human beings process our past and how effectively our body eliminates waste. I like that. I think that's true as well. Despite what has happened in our past, we go on making the same poor decisions and judgments. We react out of the fear of that story from the past, or the anger, or the impatience, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame. I could go on. And this is annoying, right? Because even sometimes consciously, you're sitting here and you're like I remember me a year and a half ago, I'm like, okay, don't get me wrong, I know conceptually that I'm supposed to eat more, that I'm supposed to stop working out, and that I should probably stop hanging out with people that aren't good for me or a good influence on me. I know all this, so then why can't I stop doing any of it? Why am I still going out and getting shit-faced? Why am I still eating hardly anything? Why am I still avoiding carbs? Why am I still overworking? Why? And this used to drive me mad. And this is what he's talking about right here. We go on making the same poor decisions and judgments, even though we actually start to consciously see what damage it's doing to our life. And this is because the fear, or you could say the energy stored in the experience, is so strong that it's still driving me. It's the 5% of your conscious awareness, which knows what it's supposed to do, fighting the 95% of your subconscious, which is programmed into your body. And so, if you who's watching this is like, oof, I can relate to that. Consciously knowing what I should do, but still choosing to do the wrong thing. I'm here to tell you that, again, from my own experience, the more you keep willing to change, the more you keep inviting discord in and attempting to listen, trying to take action to do the right thing, the more motivation and energy builds, and eventually you will be able to get over that bad habit or that ill pattern and break the cycle. How much time that takes, I can't really tell you. It's a very individualized process. But it is possible. And actually, one thing I'll just note now that's semi-related to this is that anger I used to feel when I would see what I had to do, but I couldn't do it. That anger, I realize now, is actually so good. It is the energy an individual needs to actually overcome the trial or tribulation that they're working through. And I've referenced this before, the David Hawkins map of consciousness. If you look on there, which I'll tag below, anger has a level of energy to it that sadness doesn't. So say you have your past experience, right? And you're like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I just don't know what to do about it. And you start to feel upset about that. There's no energy behind that to motivate change. Whereas the moment you start to get a little agitated, like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I keep making the same mistake. Okay, now we're working with a level of energy that can actually be transmuted into action. So I think that's just important to note, that if you see what you need to do and you're still not doing it and that makes you angry, just know you're very close to the point of transmutation. That's something I wish I had kind of known back then that I realize now. I see the wisdom in internal agitation. It gets you moving. And the last thing I'll leave you guys with is that he notes that on a global level, we're all continuously making mistakes that we see are not beneficial, yet we continue to do them. So collectively, we're at this point that I just talked about. We see the damage that we're doing, yet we continue to do it. But there's an awareness. And so even though it seems very dark right now collectively and maybe personally, this awareness is the first step to change. It's vital, it's necessary, and it's an uncomfortable point in the journey, but it's also something to be celebrated. It's much, much, much better than unconsciously reenacting all of the cycles and behaviors. So stay tuned for part 2 of this to get into how awareness doesn't necessarily change the behavior. However, it is the introduction into graduating from hearing to listening. I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you've followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now. And I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. You know, all the constant comparison to others and to people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like. All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.